Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to episode 6 of the Due North Political Podcast. I'm Perry Schumacher. I got Mike Bachenbacher, Leon Francis, Ryan Schumacher with me. How you guys doing this week?
Excellent.
Good.
Pretty good.
Okay, we're going to jump right in it. We've got a hot seat segment again tonight, but first of all, we start each show with the jobs of Rubio. So here we go. Let's start with job number 1. Rubio has to infiltrate the SPLC because of the various nefarious things they're doing. So he's going undercover as a left-wing nut job. And then if you're a sports fan, you know that the Edmonton Oilers with the superstar Connor McDavid lost out in the first round. So Rubio is volunteering to help the Edmonton Oilers next year. And this one I did myself, guys. I think you're going to like it. Rubio as a Due North podcaster.
Nice.
I'm just glad we have
that.
someone to sit in.
He doesn't look all that thrilled, but maybe he could. Last week, well, if one of us isn't here one night, maybe he can pinch hit for us, right?
That'd be good.
Okay, guys, we're going to go to the first segment. We call it My 2 Cents. And here's where I ask you guys one question, and we get answers from each one of you on the same question. Question tonight is, love him, hate him, or somewhere in between. After 10 years of Trump, we all have a pretty good idea of how he operates. My question for you on episode 6 is this. It is obvious if you want any influence on policy or decisions within his radius, you are going to have to kiss his butt. Loyalty comes before all else. It is his first commandment. If you would rather pontificate like we are doing tonight, or opposing his policies and decisions, you will have no influence in shaping those decisions. Which option would you choose? Would you rather be in the room or outside of the room? In 2026, as important as these decisions are, would you rather be in the room or outside the room? We'll start with Mike.
Well, like a good politician, I'm going to spin this one a little bit, I think. But this is where I really think good leadership comes into play. And, I've said it before, I agree with the majority of Trump's policies, and I really wish Congress would start codifying several of his executive orders into law, which of course just doesn't seem to be happening. But I would just say, instead of demanding loyalty, I really think the better solution is to work with leadership, and then leadership needs to communicate with the party so they can get the legislation passed. Most, not all, but most of Trump's policies are fairly popular with the voters, especially like his border policies and his crime crackdown policies, and Trump, in my opinion, just hasn't done enough to work with leadership, but instead, like you said, has demanded that they pass these policies. So, like the old saying goes, you can catch more flies with honey than vinegar. Maybe Trump has done it behind the scenes, but we certainly haven't seen it publicly anyways. But it always seems to, the demands and threats are what he tries to use instead of creating a good working relationship. And you all know Trump can be kind of cross and maybe not the most popular guy even in his own party sometimes. But, I can imagine the most difficult job right now would be a majority leader or like a majority whip. It's got to be just like herding cats to try to get them to vote in unison. And you've seen we can't even get all of our senators to vote the same on, very popular bills. But, no, I just can't understand why we can't get them passed, especially the ones that are popular with the American people. And it's really just a mystery to me. And, I understand the loyalty aspect, but sometimes you really need to earn that loyalty. And I just think Trump could do a better job at that.
You guys have any response to Mike's comments? Not really? Go ahead.
I guess after a decade plus of knowing Trump, we all know who he is. There's no illusion there.
Yeah, it's not
So, binary question there: trade independence for access. Do you keep your soul or influence? I choose. I don't know. I choose. I keep my soul. I'm not a courier. I'm a Christian first, conservative second, and American third. My allegiance isn't to a man, and it doesn't matter how effective that man is. Doesn't matter how effective he is at owning the libs. I've watched this movie. Trump, he rewards fealty over fidelity, in my humble opinion, and that's how you end up with sycophants. And sycophants in key spots in government instead of the best people. History is kind of littered with movements that started with big personalities and ended up as cults of personality. So that's kind of where I would go. When you take that binary and you run it the opposite way, you get a lot of rhinos that you are kind of forced to vote for because we have to get Trump's policies implemented. They'll say, I'll run with Trump's policies, but then your Second Amendment. I'm thinking about Michelle Tafoya. She says she's going to be Trump, but she's also a pro-choice Republican. She is squishy on the Second Amendment. So in my mind, I'm thinking, do I vote for her and Trump policies? Or do I vote for someone like Royce White, who I know is going to be 100% on things like life and the Second Amendment? And I'll digress.
But then let's hear Ryan, and then we'll go back around as I have a question beat to this. Go ahead, Ryan.
I would rather have the opportunity to help influence decisions and influence policy rather than not have any input at all. So, as the saying goes, hate the game, or don't hate the player, but hate the game. Trump learned all too well his first term when he tried to surround himself with Washington career bureaucrats. They all tried to thwart his agenda at every opportunity and tried to institute their own policies. So Trump knew what he had to do this second time around. He had to have people that were going to be 100% behind him and 100% loyal to him. I'd rather have that influence, even if I don't agree with him 100% of the time. I'd still rather have the chance to at least be listened to. If I was loyal to him, he may listen to me, and I may be able to offer some alternative path within the overall policy framework. But if you aren't loyal, you don't even get that opportunity. So
that's kind of where I wanted to take question B. Is there's an art to it, and I'm not a salesman, I'm an accountant. And a salesman, you got to be able to tell him how wonderful he is, but still maybe hint that you disagree with him and you want to push a certain way. Do you think he listens? I think he listens to that. Do you guys think he listens? You can disagree with him, right? But you have to do it in the right framework, right? Mike, what do you think?
Well, I was just going to kind of ask Ryan, I love the point he just made. I mean, that's, totally agreeable. So now he has surrounded himself with people that are completely loyal, but now he's lost Congress, where Congress isn't passing. Before it was his own cabinet that wasn't, helping push his agenda, whatever. Now it's Congress that's not pushing it. So how do we find the middle ground there so we can actually push forward an agenda?
Well, Congress is inept. I mean, as I've said before, they just got to wait out the 8 years till he's gone, and they're going to be there another 40. Or something's popular with the public or not. They don't want to make a tough decision. Sorry.
I don't think Congress is mega though. I mean, 5 of them might be. They use it to their, like the North Dakota Republican uses the word conservative. Leon, right? You have a.
Oh, no. I'm agreeing with that 100%. 100%. And again, I'd like to point to the Michelle Tafoya reference that I made just a second ago. Like it's great if she says, you know, hey, I'm going to do everything Trump says, and Trump goes, I love her, and you know everybody's happy. But and Trump's going to be out of office in a couple of years. We're stuck with Michelle Tafoya in Minnesota, and she is pro red flag laws. So what do you do there? You stick with principle, or you kiss the ring. In my book, every time I stick with principle because that is the long term commitment. Kissing the ring is very short term, and we got to keep that in our mind. But I do agree with Ryan. Hate the player. Don't hate the. What did you say? Don't hate the player. Hate
Don't
the
let
game.
the player hate the game.
Yeah. And sadly, that's kind of where we are. But we let it get this way by, you know, voting for cults of personality instead of a conservatism and principle. So,
And that's
That's
kind of where we turn tribal, right? Every one of us has had this expression, right? When Trump says something, seriously, did you have to do that, right? Did you know? Do you agree that Vance is way more effective at that than Trump is? Vance can Ginzu knife you and you don't even know it happened.
yeah.
Tim Walz during the debate was like, I agree with that.
Yeah, I've
That's
never
how good
seen
Vance was.
Yeah, never seen 2 vice presidential candidates agree on everything during a debate. That blew my mind.
Yeah.
But I don't sense that you have to pay homage to Vance like you have to with Trump. You know what I mean? It's just the personality, and like Leon said, we're 10 years into this. This is not going to change. As important as policies are right now in shaping the direction of the country, it is important to get into that room so he can hear your opinion. And you're going to have to suck it up in order to get into that room. You're going to have to eat a little pride.
And that's where I really think if Vance would end up being our next president, he's going to have that talent I think that Trump lacks, and that's just the ability to actually maybe humble yourself a little bit and work with people. I just don't know if Trump has that quality.
He hasn't shown it very much yet, that's for sure. And we're about at the end. If the midterms go down, then this thing is up in smoke other than foreign policy. Right. Folks, we were talking about JD Vance. We'll move to segment 2. This we call our Fire Away segment. Little Peaky Blinders for you. Here's question 2. I have a unique question for each one of you, so let me set the premise. Vance said this twice in the past few weeks. I think a lot of people, this is particularly true in the United States of America, if they see something that the administration does, they don't like, they say, oh, that's not what I voted for. We're going to check out of politics. I'm taking my ball and going home. That's the exact wrong response, Vance said. If we do something you don't like, the response should be to get more involved, to make your voice heard, and to try to push things in a direction that you want them to be pushed. We're kind of segueing off of that first question, where do you want to get in the room? Our civilization was not built overnight. Leon, do you double down on what Vance said, or do you disagree?
Oh, I double down. Our civilization anyway, wasn't built by quitters throwing in the towel the first time the guys that they voted for didn't deliver perfection. If something in this administration rubs you the wrong way, whether it's spending, foreign entanglements, personnel or personality or whatever, yeah, the wrong move is to black pill, curl up in the ball, and hand the arena over to the people who want to finish what Obama and Biden started. You got to get involved. You got to speak up. You got to organize. You got to primary people. Build parallel institutions. Push. That's how this thing works, or at least it's the way it's supposed to. So I doubled down on what Vance said. In principle, Absolutely. You cannot check out. You cannot. Despair is sin, and retreat is how we lost the culture in the first place. Our founding fathers did not shrug and say, well, it's the king is doing something I don't like. I guess I'll just tune out. They wrote that document back there and then airmailed it to King George and then kicked him out of America. That's how you get things done. You do not quit. You don't pick your ball up. You don't go home. And I'm pointing at you, NDGOP. The traitors in the NDGOP. And I'm done. I'm sorry.
Leon, let me ask you a follow-up to that. So you're kind of seeing that with the war, with us working with Israel in Iran, right? You're seeing a lot of people so disillusioned by it that they're now, how I'm never voting again, or heck, I might even, or this guy's terrible, and you know what I mean? What's your response to that?
To the whole Israel-Iran thing, I think it is the dumbest conversation I've ever heard. I think that, and I think you and I have spoken about this. I think that keeping the Strait of Hormuz open is a global win. I don't think it's just a MAGA or America first win. I think it's a global win. And I think that Donald Trump looks at the world. I think Glenn Beck made this comparison today. He said that Donald Trump doesn't look at the world like we do on a micro scale. He pulls out and he has a 3,000-foot view of the world as a chessboard, and he's looking at the bottlenecks and the things that clog up world commerce and unity and all of that, and he is making moves on that scale. While we're down here in the micro going, Trump bad, oh, what is he, a tool for Israel? Oh, shut up. Shut up. That would be my 2 cents. All of these backbiters, backstabbers that are out here going, oh, he's a puppet for it. Shut up and sit down. Let the man cook.
I don't think, the one thing, you can have many arguments for it, but he's not a tool for anybody. I mean, this guy, you can see we do these shrug things once in a while because he isn't listening to anybody tell him what to say or do, right? He will consider it, but it's going to be his mind and what he thinks is best. Mike, I got a question for you. Contrast what Vance said, and I think part of why Vance said that was because of this anti-Israel crowd who's fractioned kind of with Mega, and I think that's why he made the statement. But Mike, contrast what Vance said with what you saw at the convention. You're the state legislator here in Minot, where so many elected officials stayed home. Vance says stay in the game.
Well, I would say, I think what happened here in North Dakota and what's happening at a federal level are two completely different things. And, the people that didn't attend the convention in Minot this year, they didn't do it because they were checking out of politics. They're obviously all still involved in politics. I just don't think many of them wanted to get into what they thought could have been a potentially hostile environment, especially when we're all supposed to be on the same team. And I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, and I haven't spoken to any of them to verify, I guess, why they weren't there. I'm just making an assumption on this. But I will say this, I personally didn't really like how the 2024 convention in Fargo played out. And I think Sandy Sanford did a nice job, and so no blame sent her way, but I just didn't like the antics that went on. And I think they could have been avoided. And, as I mentioned before, people need to realize we're all on the same team, and we need to settle our differences behind closed doors and not air out our dirty laundry for everyone to see in the public. So, referring to the checking out of politics you referred to, you're correct, 100% correct that it's the exact wrong thing for people to do. You need to get involved and stay involved. But in my opinion, in addition to getting more involved, I think what really needs to happen is you need to realize that there's some responsibilities that go along with getting involved in politics too. And one of the responsibilities that I preach all the time is you really need to educate yourself on facts, on facts, not some rumor that you heard. Let's get the facts out there. If it is a rumor, you can ask somebody about it, but do that before you get online or start going nuclear on people. Arm yourself with facts first. So and especially if you're gonna get involved with politics for the first time, or if you're increasing your involvement from where you're at, the first thing you also should do is just start studying it, studying issues that you have interest in, do more research, and then meet with the people that you're disagreeing with. And ask them for details on what, why they disagree with you and your opinion. But I would strongly encourage, being civil about it. Maybe, just maybe, you never know, the elected official that you're questioning might give you some additional insight as to why they voted the way they did or took a position they did, whatever it be. But give them a chance at least to explain their position, instead of instantly jumping to social media and pouncing like so many of them seem to do. Just unfortunately, it seems that that's the first place they go is social media, and they don't research the facts. Now, I think not only would this help people to get and stay engaged, which I would love to see to keep them engaged, but it also would provide what I think would be a pathway, I guess you might want to say, for voters to influence votes. And, I would say this is a personal perspective here, but, I get a lot of calls from constituents to talk about issues, and I'm happy they reach out to me. I'm blessed to be in a district with so many voters that are willing to talk. I don't know if that's the case in all districts, but I'm happy to have these conversations. And, I've had people attack me. I don't think there's any legislators that haven't had an attack on them, one way or another, but if I see that, I'll reach out to them to see if they want to discuss it, or I'll email them details of why I voted the way I did or whatever it be. But it seems to me that nearly every time you can diffuse a situation just by having. Whose idea was that? Our friend Charlie Kirk. So
I want to mention a show I was listening today. They were giving it. You said going out and finding facts. They were talking about a online personality, young woman, country woman, puts out lots of videos, shooting guns and Second Amendment, and lots of very conservative MAGA posts on X. And it was found out it was actually a male from India.
Yes,
I believe India or Pakistan, that was actually the person doing the posting, and he was just making all sorts of money because all sorts of mega people were following, and that's the thing. It becomes tribal, right? If somebody says something you agree with, you instantly navigate to that person, and you don't even know if it's legit. It's part of the modern world now, but we just want to be told that we're right. We're right. We're right. We're right. And people just love that. You know what I mean? It's so bandwagon. It's so sports-like, but people just love to be told they're right. And if you're on the other side, then you're evil. Now, I'm not talking about Democrats here because they are, but I'm talking about
Confirmation bias is what you're talking about.
Yeah, good word. Good word. You know what I mean? They just want to know if you agree with them, you're a hero.
And that's sad because I happen to know that there are a lot of bot farms in America. And a lot of them are set up because we are so enamored with confirmation bias. That's why it works so good. That's why it's so profitable. And we got to get our heads in the game. Like with me, we had this conversation, and I'll be pithy, but we had this conversation before. It's why I tune out all that noise, because you're not going to get that with me. I think the way I think. Sometimes I agree with Mike. Sometimes I'm like, sometimes I agree with Perry, and sometimes I'm like, are you serious right now? And I like that independent street. It's gotten me in trouble before. I'm going to put that out there, but I love it. When you're going for confirmation bias, you will ride that train right off the cliff and not even know it. So,
Ryan, we'll get to your question here regarding Vance's comments about staying involved. Do you think he was just playing politics, trying to motivate his supporters for the midterms, or does he really mean it?
I think in theory he believes what he was saying, and he's right that a lot of voters tend to disengage and gravitate towards apathy when they feel certain policies or the implementation of those policies aren't what they expected. But I don't think he was talking to the electorate as a whole. He was talking to his supporters that don't necessarily agree with everything that Trump's been doing here in his second term. And I guarantee you, he wasn't talking about the Democrats that were screaming and protesting and rioting during the ICE escapades here earlier this year. He wasn't talking to those people. And we didn't want to hear any more of those voices that are like fingernails on a chalkboard. But I think he wants his supporters to stay engaged. He knows that the only way to hold on to the House is to make sure that Republicans and right-leaning independents don't check out here over the next 6 months. And if they feel involved, they'll be more inclined to vote. So I think that was more of his message at the time.
Guys, it kind of blew my mind. The NFL draft was after the last show we had. And what it was, over 800,000 people attended the NFL draft in Pittsburgh. If just 25% of them would be politically active and pay attention. And we hear this a lot, right? This is the most important election. We've heard that our entire lifetimes. But I think we're getting close to the point where when you have a Democrat socialist in the state of Minnesota, you have a Democrat socialist running the largest city in the country, we're kind of getting close to it being the most important election ever. I guarantee you in 2028, they're not going to run away from the word Democrat socialist. It will be on their tagline. They are proud of it. And once you go there, so we're nearing that point. And if 800,000 people can watch the NFL draft in live, just be a little bit civically minded.
So last week on my show, I had that Lee Zeldin versus that purple streaked haired.
Oh, yeah.
And I said that we are an idiocracy. Has anybody seen that movie, Idiocracy? That's where we are right now in America. Some people are so checked out that they actually pulled the lever for that chick. That to me, that is scary stuff, man. That's one step away from the black dude with the long hair, and he's shooting guns, and he's the president of the United States in that movie. We're one generation away from that. When you listen to her, she didn't even have an argument. Like Lee Zeldin is just pulling facts and facts and facts, and she's like, "Well, you don't agree with me, so you're wrong." Type thing. She's 120 years old and she looks like a hippie, and people voted for her, and she had not 1 ounce of common sense at all. And you're just like, I'm looking at her, I'm like, I can't believe. So we are this stupid as a people. It's incremental. Like I agree that we are one election cycle away from this whole thing falling off the rails. It's creeping. Every election cycle, we get stupider and stupider, and we vote for people like that chick. To me, that is that's a scary condition.
I call it unserious. We're unserious.
Mm.
I mean, and I make the argument, I'm as big a sports fan as anybody. I've kind of checked in on the draft every once in a while. I want to get home and watch the Wild game after this, but you can do both. You can be.
Wait. We can do both?
Yeah, you can juggle things, Leon. You can do all sorts of things. You can go to the grocery store, you can fix the car, and you can still vote and take part in local politics. There's just lots, and you can still go to the lake on the weekend. It's weird. Mike, are you flexible like that, Mike? Do you get a lot of things done?
I probably have about 3 full-time jobs if you look at everything I do. So yeah.
We'll ask your wife what she thinks if you really do, or if they're all part-time.
Oh, she would agree that maybe they're all part-time, but it sure feels like 3 full-time jobs. But yeah, you can multitask. It is possible. I know it might seem like a foreign subject to some, but yeah, it's possible.
800,000 people go to that draft, and whatever player they're team picks. It's the greatest player that's ever been taken. I mean, it's just.
Hey, unless you're a Raiders fan. If you're a Raiders fan, besides Mendoza, you hated every other pick from then on after, just because we're the grumpiest fans out there.
Okay, folks, we got to go to our hot seat segment. Here we'll bring in our guest tonight. Michael, we're going to let you introduce him.
Yeah, sure. So tonight we have with us former Representative Dave Weiler. Representative Weiler was the author of the bill that created the Legacy Fund. And today we put him in the hot seat to answer some questions and hopefully provide some information to the listeners on how it operates. So with that, let's bring to the show former Representative Dave Weiler.
Welcome, Dave.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Dave,
Thank you for having me.
You want to make a little opening statement, and then we'll ask you some questions off that?
Would you want me to make an opening statement about the Legacy Fund, or do you want me to make an opening statement about the last 20 minutes that I just watched?
Go. Well, why don't you do a combination of both? Tell us how brilliant. Tell us how brilliant we are, and then
They like confirmation bias.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah. No, that was fine. Yeah, that was good. Well, yeah. So first of all, thanks again for having me on. And I was brought on. Mike and I have been friends for quite a long time, and we have several conversations about the Legacy Fund. It was formed back in 2009. When I was a legislator, I sponsored the bill that got this on the ballot so that people could pass the bill, or pass or fail this idea of saving some oil money for, and here's the key point right here, future generations. The oil revenue that we are trying to save is for future. My son is 22, my daughter's 20, and I'd like to think that it is for their kids. They're not the revenue that we are enjoying now it's here, and it's going to. We don't know how long this is going to be around, and we want future generations of North Dakotans to enjoy the financial benefit that we currently have now, because at some point there won't be oil anymore. It might be 20 years, it might be 50 years, but the oil might not be here forever, and it's certainly at some point it's going to the level of production is going to decline, and so the state has become so dependent upon oil revenue over the last 15, 20 years maybe. So when the oil revenue starts to decline, how are we going to make up for that loss of revenue? And it really takes it makes a person to think about it, and not think about it now, because we know how much money is coming into the state because of oil. But in 30 years, in 40 years, how are we going to be sitting? So the fund was really was put together for future generations.
Okay.
Dave, let me ask you.
Yeah.
Let me ask you. So you said, planning ahead. Obviously, when you're $39 trillion in debt, the baby boomer generation hasn't done a whole hell of a lot of planning ahead as on a federal level. Do you recall when it passed the when it passed the referendum, right? What was the percentage that passed? I mean, what was the score?
67. It might have been 66, and it was two-thirds of the people of North Dakota passed it. And basically it is that we're going to have all the oil revenue oil tax revenue that came into the state of North Dakota. Because we were, again, it was bringing in so much tax revenue from oil that we felt we needed to save some revenue and put it into a fund. The fund, the principal balance of the fund can be accessed by the legislature, but it takes a 2/3 vote of the legislature, and they can only they can only access 15% at a time, but I think they changed that recently to 5% of the principal balance can be accessed during any biennium. So
Let me have one more general question and then we'll move to the guys. So obviously this, as an accountant, this gets, this fluctuates, this revenue based on the price of oil. So
yeah, yes, it does.
there's good
Price
times
and
and there's
based
bad.
on the production. Yes,
Right.
right. And that's
So,
that's
okay.
a great point because it's not the same thing every time. Great all the time. So yeah, that's a good point. You
Is
have to be careful. You have to be careful with this.
the money that goes into it, is it generated or collected at the time the oil is pumped out of the ground, or is it collected at the time the for lack of a better word, the manufacturers sell the oil, out on the market? Because oil's pumping all the time. You can't once.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
And it's been 17 years, but I believe it's right off the top. It's the first 30% that comes to the state of North Dakota. There are sources that get oil revenue, but the legacy fund comes right off the top to the state. It's the first 30% of oil tax revenue that comes.
Okay.
Right. It's 5%. There's 5% production tax, 5% extraction tax for a total of 10%. And so then that money, 30% of it goes into the legacy fund is how it works. So yeah, Dave's right. They tax it right away and then take 30% of it off the board.
At the time. That's okay. That's what I was wondering, because the oil is always, once you tap a well, I mean, that you can't turn it off. It's always coming out. So that's the extraction and production tax. Okay.
Yep.
Leon, you got a question?
Well, I do. I have Alaska on the mind because I got friends that are going up there. They do bear hunting. They do the salmon fishing and all that stuff. So I know that they have what I have called the pot fund, the permanent oil trust fund up there. That thing is sitting at like $90 billion. Do you foresee, or is there a mechanism, or is anyone working on a mechanism that would give us the ability to go from, what was it, 14 billion to 90 billion? Do you think that that's a possibility?
Well, it certainly is. It's gonna take a while. I don't know the exact makeup of Alaska's permanent oil trust fund, but I know they take a lot. They take a lot of tax in Alaska. North Dakota takes 30%. It would be great to see North Dakota get to that point someday. Alaska has made some mistakes with their permanent oil trust fund in the past. They used to give checks to every for $2,000, and then the fund went broke, and they've done some other things. In fact, we had a visitor that came and spoke to us in Fargo back in 2008 or something like that, and they basically said, "Don't make the same. Save this money, and the earnings that come off of the fund." Here's the important part: the earnings that come off of the fund, which right now and Representative Machbacher can help me more. It's around 1.2 a biennium right now. Don't spend all
that's
of those.
fairly accurate.
Don't spend all of those earnings on ongoing expenses and earmarking that for things like, might get into trouble here, but that's okay. property taxes. You know, to earmark money from the earnings from the fund is a mistake. It's a big mistake. But Alaska has made those mistakes, and they've had somebody that came down and said, don't make the same mistakes made. Save some of that. Some of that. I'm going to compare the legacy fund to a 401k fund. North Dakota. The difference is that North Dakota will hopefully never retire, but in someone's 401k plan, have you ever heard their financial planner say, well, let's take the earnings and, you know, let's spend all those earnings that come off of that fund. Well, what do? The earnings go back into the fund. Worse yet, let's tap into principal balance of your 401k. Let's go spend $40,000 of that 401k, the principal balance. It's a mistake. So we need to be careful, you know, with
Mike,
what we do.
You or Dave can answer this. Maybe you or Dave can answer this question. So you hear a lot about unfunded liabilities, right? The pensions and stuff like that, that public employees have. This money is not that. This money is sitting in a bank somewhere and being invested, correct?
Correct.
Correct. It's money that's being invested. Yes. The legislature is getting calls to be more transparent with where it's being invested and all that. And it's, you know, that's fine and dandy, but I guess I was brought on this show to talk about the importance of the legacy fund. The legislature needs to be very careful with the earnings that come off of that fund and not spend all of it. And they've been spending all of it. And that's a dangerous thing. And earmarking it for certain things. So what happens in 4 years when we have a downturn in the price of oil and the production goes down and the earnings off of that fund come in at $400 million a biennium, but $560 million is earmarked for property taxes. Now what's going to happen? Who's going to pay part of that $1,600 of property taxes for the state of North Dakota? So we
have a strategy? Do we have a strategy in place, or do we have anybody brainstorming on how to get more money into that fund, how to grow that fund?
Leon, that's a great question, and I know that Robert Harms actually dropped some information off for me today. Robert Harms is a former counsel for Ed Schaefer and a few years for John Hoeven, and Robert Harms is probably the most intelligent person about the legacy fund that I know. But if you really want, if there's a strategy, the strategy should be, let's take 50% of the earnings that come off of this fund and put it back into the fund, and it's going to grow at exponentially greater limits. But when the legislature, Mach, sorry, I know what side you're on. But when the legislature,
Mike's in the hot seat now.
I'm in the hot seat. When do we change?
When the legislature decides to spend all of the earnings on their little pet projects, and you know, it really just doesn't do the legacy fund any good. It doesn't do future generations any good.
Mike, we better let you.
So Leon, I'm sorry, but Leon, to answer your question, you know, the money that goes into the principal balance every year is going to be dependent upon the two things: the production and the production and the price of oil. Right? The way that we can strategize to get this fund to grow and grow and grow is to not spend all of the earnings, and hopefully one day the earnings off of this fund can fund state government. And then guess what happens to our, guess what happens to our personal income tax? Gone. Corporate income tax, gone. North Dakota should
I'd
be a
rather
state.
be.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say I'd rather be living in North Dakota and paying a 2% tax rate than in Minnesota and paying 10%. Even I'd be happy with 2 for the rest of my life.
Oh no, I get it. No, I agree. It's great to only pay 2%, but I'd rather live in Florida too and pay 0. So has nothing to do with the weather, by the way.
Mike, what do you have to say for Dave?
Well, Dave, I would just ask this because as a legislator. Well, wait a second. Am I in the hot seat or is Dave back in the hot seat?
We're gonna put
Oh,
Dave
dude.
back in there now.
It's
Okay,
you,
Dave's
right?
back in the hot seat. Okay, so I hear a lot of talk on the streets. Okay, about we should tap the legacy fund principle and start using that for current needs that we have. Now, you and I have had conversation about this. I agree with that. I think we need to continue to treat our 401k for our kids and grandkids, like you mentioned too. But we talked a little bit about it, but I want to know how do you explain, in your opinion, how do you explain to the citizens in North Dakota that we have to treat it more like a 401k rather than an endowment? Because right now we're treating it like an endowment. So how do you explain that, in your opinion, to the voters, to the citizens of North Dakota, that it's not ready to be tapped yet like that? Someday we'll get to that point, but how would you explain that if you were a sitting legislator and someone asked you that question?
Well, first of all, I'd bat my head to start with.
Dave, you want to be a regular guest on this show?
Secondly, I asked them to go talk to their finance planner and ask them if they think they should tap into their 401k. They're 40 years old. So
Perfect.
Yeah.
Do you recall back when this passed, what was the biggest pushback that you heard at that time? And is that still valid, do you think?
Well, when this first started, to be honest, it was 2007. And it,
Lifetime ago.
yeah, it was a long time ago, almost 20 years ago. It was 2007. And the first idea of the fund, it wasn't at the time called Legacy Fund. It was some other name to the fund, but we wanted $5 million, the $5 million of oil revenue go into that, the state would get that, and anything above that would go into this fund, this permanent fund. And the next biennium, it was like $9 million, and anything above that. And Hoeven opposed the education, North Education opposed it, Farmers Union opposed it, a lot of people opposed it. And as I look back on it, yeah, if we would have passed, this fund would probably have 150 million in it right now, and it might have been very, very aggressive, what we did. But it came back next session in 2009. We put together the lead in the House, both Democrat and Republican, the leaders in the Senate, both Democrat, Republican. We got Hoeven on board. We had the North Dakota Educationists. Everybody that opposed it in 2007, we got theirs. We received their support in two. So the pushback, again, it was a 2/3 vote. So there wasn't a lot of push. The pushback, you know what? I don't remember what the pushback was. I'm sorry. I can't answer the question. I don't remember what it was. I just don't.
The only thing I see now is people are asking for, like you said, a little bit more transparency and maybe seeing, how things are invested. Mike or Dave, how would you answer that?
Well, I'll let Mach talk in a second, but I think the transparent. But if I can just go back a second. I think the push may have been the people that said, well, this is our money and we should be able to spend it as we want. Well, I would disagree with the fact that our money as state citizens, this is taken from the oil industry. This is the oil company's money and the landowners' money. This is their tax dollars from the revenue from the oil that was derived from their land. So this is not North Dakota's money. North Dakota's, this is the oil companies and the landowners' money. But the pushback, I think, came from, let's not save it. Let's spend all this money that's coming in. Can you imagine what our state would look like right now if the $1.4 billion that is in the legacy fund, if that were to be spent on what? What would our state look like right now? I mean, we would have more ongoing funding or ongoing spending at the state level, and we would be in a lot of trouble.
I've got a gift ready because I've got a sarcastic remark. You know what the state would look like right now? A lot more Democrats running as Republicans. Boom!
Oh,
That's what it would look like.
I'm sorry, did you say a lot of Democrats running as Republicans? You think we could have more? You think we could have more than we already have?
We're keeping Dave around. He's my kind of guy. I just
Yeah.
met him, but he's my kind of guy.
Yeah, well,
did I get booted off the show then?
phone's lighting up with people that don't like what I'm saying, but that's okay.
Anybody else got any final questions for Dave in the hot seat here on the legacy fund?
I was just gonna say, I remember a funny comedian. I can't remember his name, and his kids would come to him and they'd have conversations, and the kids would be like, "Yeah, but we're rich," and then the comedian who is a father goes, "No, I'm rich. You just live here." I think that kind of applies here.
I think that's Will Ferrell. I think he's got that attitude. Dave, we have our next segment is called Looky Here. We're just going to keep you on if you don't mind. We're nearly done with the show. But what we do in this segment is we each try to bring something to the show that maybe the public didn't hear in the news or didn't see in the news. So we're going to start with, I guess I got Mike's here first. Mike, I can show it on the screen, right?
Yep, go right ahead.
This is Mike's Looky Here.
So, all right. So as you can see there, everybody's favorite Democratic socialist, Zoran Mamdani, recently posted that New York City has a budget problem. Shocker. I mean, I'm glad somebody finally figured that out. And now, he's looking to the state to bail out New York City. But has the thought of cutting any spending ever crossed his mind? No, it hasn't. I mean, he said he inherited a deficit. Okay. Now, I just want to remind all the viewers that New York has been under Democratic control since Rudy Giuliani left back in 2001, I believe it was. I think Bloomberg actually was a Republican when he got elected. By the time he was done, though, he is changed to independent, and then now, of course, is a Democrat full and full. But so basically, for the last 20 years, it's been run by Democrats. But now, all of a sudden, he's saying he inherited a deficit. But Mamdani also, he also stated that he needed to pass a fiscally responsible budget without cutting any services. And then he went on to say that we need to look at additional revenues. The solution to the crisis and being fiscally responsible is what? Let's spend more money. I mean, New York they have a $12 billion budget deficit, not the state, that's just the city. And, one of his solutions that he presented was a luxury tax, where he was going to impose a luxury tax on homes that were valued over $5 million that would raise $500 million annually. And, he specifically pointed out Ken Griffin. I'm sure you all know who Ken Griffin is, but and then Griffin responded saying, well, if that's the way you're going to treat me, then I'm going to reconsider the $6 billion Manhattan project that I'm working on that's going to create 6,000 construction jobs and 15,000 permanent jobs. I just don't know. I mean, when are Democrats like Mamdani going to figure out that you cannot tax yourself into prosperity? You know, New York is bleeding residents right now because of these policies, and it doesn't seem like it matters to them. They just wave goodbye to them as they leave. Eventually, there's going to be nobody left to pay the bills.
Was it Margaret Thatcher or Ronald Reagan that says eventually you run out of other people's money? I think it was Margaret Thatcher that said that, right?
That's the problem with socialism. And it blows my mind that someone that's supposedly as smart as a lot of these Democrats claim to be, they don't understand the fact that people with money can pick up and move. Like that
And they are.
concept just blows their mind. You know, they don't even think about it.
Ryan, we're going to go to your
Well,
looky here. Go ahead.
Some of these people are just simply, to put it simple, some of the people they're just in the wrong country. Period. They're in the wrong
Agreed.
country.
Though they want to change our country, that's for darn sure. And it's guys like us that are not going to let them. Ryan, here's your looky here.
So this is another installment of how crazy these Democrats are, and if you vote Democrat, this is what you're voting for. Prisoners at the women's prison facility in Massachusetts are complaining that they're being sexually assaulted, abused, harassed by male prisoners that are identifying either as transgender or female to be housed in the female prison. But some of these male prisoners that are in the female prison centers have been convicted of sexually assaulting, raping women, and battery against women, but yet they're going to place these people in the female prisons because they identify as transgender. So folks, if you vote Democrat, you vote crazy, and this is what you get.
That is astonishing. You mean putting males in a condition where you have vulnerable females is not a good. Is that what you're telling me? That is not a good strategy.
Some of these males were convicted of sexual assault and rape against women.
Dude, I'm kidding. Like, this is just. I remember California had something similar where they had several of the female prisoners in there impregnated by, a guy who said, "Hey, I feel pretty. Put me over there with the women." And they did it. I mean, Mike, the stupid is just unbelievable.
I think the birth rates at prisons is going to go through the roof. It's going to outdo what we see at a national level. Leon, yours is a video. I'm going to play that one now. We sometimes have problems with this, but folks, let's see if it works. Okay.
And I'm looking at this video. This dude dropped the ball big, and I know that there are going to be investigations. And then when you see what happened here, and there are a couple of points, I'm going to stop this big dog. Boom. That dog knows that guy is armed. Look at that.
Is the video working, guys?
Look at that. He's pulling him back. Look at the tightness of that leash there. But watch, the dog is going to indicate again. Boom. Right back in there. Look at that. Look at that. Did you see that? The dog had it. Look at this. Walk through the door. Dog's got it. But as you can see, the dog is on.
So Leon, explain what we were seeing there.
And this is unbelievable to me. So I saw, this is the White House Correspondents' Dinner where we all know that Chucklenut ran in and, he committed suicide by dumbassery. But so we saw the one angle where he ran past. This was the reverse angle. So this guy walks in and the dog indicates immediately. Like immediately, when that guy walks in, he walks in the door, the dog is on him. His handler pulls him back, and he talks to the guy. He's like, "I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on with this dumb dog of mine, even though we trained the dog to sniff out firearms." And I don't know why he's suddenly taking an interest in you. It just blows my mind. And he pulls the dog back. The dog goes beeline right back to the guy. Right back. So two very hard indicators. I have a coonhound, I have a beagle, and I'm getting a bloodhound. I listen to my dogs in the field. If my dogs are indicating, I'm right on it. My eyes go up. I'm alert. I'm like, okay, they got something. This morning, the beagle cornered a coon in the tree, and I was able to shoot it down. You have to listen to your dog. This dog indicated twice. And then the second the guy pulled the dog back again, and he's like, "Nah, we're gonna go over here." So you stop bothering people, I guess, or something stupid like that. Here comes the guy, runs right out the door with the guy. That dude should not even be Blart, the mall cop, anywhere in America. His face should be plastered all over, like all social media. Again, go to my social media, look at that video again, like the entire video. It is unbelievable to me, and I haven't heard a lot of people talking about that fact, like how hard that dog indicated twice, like that. The video was I chopped it up for time and all of that, but I did a whole segment on my show just on that, and you just look at the progression, and it's, to me, it's unbelievable. It's unforgivable, actually.
Well, I say, okay, we're all of a certain age here. We're all 50 and over. We remember when people were professionals and you got good service when you went somewhere and everybody did a great job. Those days are over, right? I mean, they're absolutely over. I keep saying my children, my oldest is 36. He's never going to know what good service is again, nor is my 30-year-old daughter. They're never going to. They have no idea what customer service even is. That ship has sailed so long ago, and I think it has a lot to do with how parents brought kids up. We just failed, and this guy failed at his job with the dog. He's got the dog. I'm sure he goes home with the dog every night, but he didn't listen to the dog.
Yeah.
Everybody fails. There's just no quality anywhere, but they get hired.
The dog can't talk. He can't say, "Hey, the dude, I can smell the gunpowder. I can smell the Remington gun oil that he's got going there." He can't say that. So what he does is what he's trained to do. He indicates. And this guy, you talk about drop the ball. This dude is a national embarrassment. A national embarrassment. And I would second what Perry just said. Like, you go into a restaurant now, they expect you to tip them. As a matter of fact, you can't even move past the menu on their little deal there without, hey, what do you want to give for a tip? You want to do 15%, 20%? I'm like, well, when I get good service, I might chip in $1 or $2. That's what I'm doing, because you were spot on. Back in the day, you go in, you get the smile, you get the conversation, you get all of that, and now you get some chick with a nose ring and goth makeup, and she's like, "Can I take your order? What do you want?" I'm supposed to pay for that? The food is high enough, and now I gotta tip you? No. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're right. Okay, here's my lookie here. So this was a gal, Cheryl Cowan. She made $272,000 a year as a senior VP at a USAID funded nonprofit. Well, that job was eliminated at the end of March 2025 by, I think, what Doge found out. So last month she was looking for a $19 an hour job in Falls Church, Virginia. Was she overqualified before, do we think, or is she underqualified for the $19 an hour job? That's our federal government, and the NGOs and the USAIDs is full of this stuff. 30% of all expenditures is purely being ripped off by everybody. She can't get a $19 an hour job, but was paid $250,000. It's a nice gig if you can get it. And we got a lot of people with all the Medicaid fraud, everything else, California, Minnesota. I mean, this stuff is legion, and it's everywhere. It's just unreal.
She should open up a Leering Center. That's where I see her future.
Leering centers might not be available here in the next few months if if the federal government keeps doing what they're doing, and JD Vance has been put in charge of that now. So I just heard today of all that what happened in Minnesota was peanuts compared to what they're finding in both California and Ohio. So I think people are going to be on alert pretty quick that this is coming to an end. And I can't imagine how many billions of dollars we're going to save.
Ryan, you're the Minnesota resident. Wasn't it cute last week when the FBI went and raided all those places and Tim Walz said, I told you we're going to get on it. I told you we're going to get on it.
I think back to the Leering Center when the Nick Shirley video first came out, and he's like, there's no one here. And then all the news organizations here, the TV stations and the Star Tribune the next day were at the Leering Center. And oh my God, it was busy. Like, really, like you would think after this, like shocking that it became suddenly busy that day. And then now when they went and raided it last week, they gave up their license at the beginning of January, and it's been empty since then. So shocking that one day it was really busy when all the news people were there.
Right.
Okay, well, that's it for episode 6. Dave, we want to thank you for joining us. I think you informed the audience. We learned a little bit, all 4 of us. Thank you for coming on. Folks, we'll be back on May 19th, right, guys?
Yep.
2 weeks
And we're
from
going to,
tonight. Mike, go ahead.
oh, we were going to have on, just so the voters know, or voters, so listeners know, we're going to have on our hot seat next session, Supreme Court Justice Jared Toffey is going to teach us about Supreme Court, what they do. And I'm just going to ask him, what do you guys do on a daily basis? So I'm looking forward to having him on in 2 weeks.
Hopefully they got no DEI
Perry.
hires at the North Dakota Supreme Court.
Perry, can I make a closing statement real quick?
Sure.
For anybody that's listening, just remember this. Property tax relief that we are currently enjoying, the money comes from the Legacy Fund. I think everybody probably knows. Okay. It comes from the earnings off Legacy Fund. If the legislature and the governor do not get spending under control and they continue to spend and spend and spend, grandkids won't have property tax relief. That's it. It won't happen. So thank you very much for the opportunity to allow me to be on this show. I'll be listening and watching in 2 weeks.
Okay,
Perfect.
folks,
Thanks,
have a
Dave.
good week. Let's hope